2 minutes to live, 2 minutes. One minute to live, 1 minute. And you're live in 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you're up.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call this Planning Corporate Services meeting of the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Kincardine to order at 5 p.m. on June 12th, 2023 at the Municipal Administration Center. Roll call first. Deputy Mayor Clark.
Present.
Councillor Blackwell.
Present.
Councillor Kavanaugh.
Present.
Councillor Hinchberger.
Present.
Councillor Kennedy.
Present.
Councillor Prenger.
Present.
Councillor Steinoff-Gray.
Present.
Councillor Stewart.
Present.
To acknowledge the members of staff and the members in the public gallery tonight as well. And we will have opportunity. I believe there are some people who've connected electronically that may be offering information as we go through the meeting tonight. I'd like to call on Councillor Steinoff-Gray, please.
Thank you. We would like to begin by acknowledging that we are meeting on the traditional lands and treaty territory of the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, which includes the Chippewas of Nawash, unceded First Nation, and the Chippewas of Saugeen First Nation, whose ancestors were the first to inhabit, care for, and live on this land. We recognize and deeply appreciate the contributions that Indigenous people have made both in caring for this land and shaping and strengthening this community, our province, and our country. As a public service organization, we are dedicated to learning and acknowledging Indigenous history and culture, and are committed to actions that move us towards a journey of truth, healing, and reconciliation with the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, the Métis Nation of Ontario, and the historic Saugeen Métis. Thank you.
Are there any amendments, additions, or deletions to the agenda that council would like to propose? Seeing none, I would ask, moving on, disclosure of pecuniary interest. If you have one, if you would declare it now or as it arises during the meeting. Deputy Clerk, you have a motion, please.
I have moved by Andrea Clark, seconded by Rory Kavanaugh, that council move into the Committee of Adjustment meeting to hear 2 proposed minor variance applications and upon completion, return to council.
Heard the motion, all in favor? And that's carried. All right, I'd like to call this Committee of Adjustment meeting of the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Kincardine to order at 3 minutes after 5. At the municipal office, the roll call remains the same. Once again, I remind you to disclose your pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof if it arises. Deputy Clerk, a motion regarding minutes.
I have moved by Amanda Steinhoff Grace, seconded by Doug Kennedy, that the Committee of Adjustment approve the minutes dated April 12th, 2023 as circulated.
You've heard the resolution, all in favor, and that's carried. We have two minor variance applications this evening. Our first, the applicants are Ken and Jeanette Young at 9 Whippoorwill Lane. And I would call on Jillian Smith to present the application, please.
Good evening. I'm just going to share my screen. Unfortunately, I can't do that. I was just going to pull up the site plan, but
You can make her a host.
that's fine. So this minor variance application was made by Ken Young for the property at 9 Whippoorwill Lane. The applicant is proposing to construct a deck for their primary dwelling. The deck will increase the lot coverage of the property to 17.8%, and the maximum lot coverage permitted is 15%. The property is designated shoreline development and is zoned residential, so decks are permitted as part of residential uses in both the zoning bylaw and the official plan. The application was circulated for comments. Son had requested the applicant contact them to discuss archaeology. The applicant has reached out to them and has not heard back. So that was the extent of those comments. Kincardine chief building official requires the deck to conform to the Ontario Building Code in regards to clearances from private septic systems. And this has been included as a condition of approval. And no other comments have been received. So town staff are recommending approval for an increase to the lot coverage from 15% to 17.8%, as this does meet 4 tests of minor variance and is permitted as per the residential uses. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Smith, for that report. Does the applicant want to share any comments to council at this time? Okay, thank you. Are there any members of the public that wish to speak to this application? Are there any members of the public that would like to speak to this application? Are there any members of council that have any questions or comments regarding this application? Deputy Clerk, you have a motion, please.
I have moved by Beth Blackwell, seconded by Bill Stewart, that the Committee of Adjustment approve the minor variance from Ken and Jeanette Young for the property described as 9 Whippoorwill Lane to permit a maximum lot coverage of 17.8% for the main dwelling.
So you've heard the motion, all in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried. Congratulations, you have a new deck in your backyard now. Should be there when you get home. All right, we have another application from Branson Chia. I'm sorry, is that the right pronunciation for that last name? Is Branson here? Okay. We have the presentation from our planner, Jillian Smith, to present the application, please, Jillian.
Hi, so this is the minor variance application for the property at 3 Naya Court. The applicant is proposing a reduction to the exterior side yard requirements. So the bylaw requires a setback of 6 meters, and the applicant is proposing an exterior side yard setback of 5.6 meters, so it's just shy of 6 meters. The property currently contains a townhouse dwelling, and the variance is being sought in order to recognize the existing deficiency. So the application was circulated for comments, and the CBO has provided some background on the application, providing that the original plans were consistent with the zoning requirements. And then when the foundation was poured, it was determined that the setback was slightly deficient, and no other comments have been received. So based on the slight reduction, staff are recommending approval, as it does meet all of the other requirements of the zoning bylaw. and is consistent with the official plan, and it is minor in nature. So we are recommending approval. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Smith, for that again. Is there anyone here representing the applicant that would like to speak to this application?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Mr. Doyle. Go ahead, please.
Hey, sorry about the not sure how my name got misspelled there, but anyway, I'm just representing the applicant with Barry's Construction as we bought the home, and we're just here to answer any questions if there is any. Thanks.
Are there any members of the public that would like to speak to this application? Are there any members of the public that would like to speak to this application? Any members of council that have any questions or comments? Deputy Clerk, please.
Moved by Jennifer Prenger, seconded by Mike Hinchberger, that the Committee of Adjustment approve the minor variance for Branson Shea at 3 Naya Court, Municipality of Kincardine, to permit an exterior side yard setback of 5.6 meters.
So you've heard the motion. All in favor of that motion? Any opposed? And that's carried. Deputy Clerk, please.
Moved by Roy Kavanaugh, seconded by Andrea Clark, that the Committee of Adjustment meeting do now adjourn at 5:09 PM.
Heard the motion. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay. Deputy Clerk, please.
I have moved by Amanda Steinhoff Gray, seconded by Doug Kennedy, that the council move into public meeting to hear one application and upon completion, return to council.
Heard the motion. All in favor? And that's carried. So I'd like to call to order the public meeting of the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Kincardine at 5:10 on June 12th. Roll call, and it remains the same. Once again, are there any amendments or deletions to the agenda? Seeing none, I would remind you to disclose any pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof. And we have one rezoning application from Bradstone Developments, Inc. And I would like to call on our planner, Karina Smith, to explain the report, please.
Thank you. Good evening, council. If there's any members of the public who would like to speak to this application and you haven't already included your name on the sign-in sheet, we would please ask that you do so. So I am presenting on this application today. It is for a draft plan of vacant land condominium. They are looking to develop the 1.44 hectare parcel of land, which is on Golf Links Road. It is to be developed with 36 townhouse units in 10 buildings. The application was previously subject to a zoning bylaw amendment application, which council did approve and was subsequently appealed to the Ontario Land Tribunal. That appeal was later dismissed, and so the zoning is in effect and did establish the principle of development on the site. The applications were circulated to various agencies, and those who have provided comments or conditions, those conditions have been included in the attached draft conditions for your consideration. So the county is seeking the town's recommendation on this application. The county is the approval body for land division purposes. So that would include vacant land condominium applications such as the one before you. We did also receive comments from members of the public. We did receive comments in writing from 3 individuals who were expressing some concerns with stormwater management, lot sizes, traffic, and fencing. I'm happy to take any questions if there are any. I understand the agent for the applicant is also here and does have a brief presentation as well. So I will keep my speaking notes short tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I would ask if the applicant has any comments on this application, please come up to the microphone, introduce yourself for the record, if you would, please.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for that, Karina. I was hoping to keep my speaking notes short and you were going to explain it, but I can explain it too. My name is Dana Keeper. I'm a planner with Cobite Engineering. So the application before you tonight is for a draft plan of vacant condominium. As Karina mentioned, the county is the approval authority. So what we're here seeking is your resolution that the municipality does approve of the development. So for a little bit of context, the site is located at 8 Golf Links Road in Kincardine. It's 1.44 hectares and is currently vacant. It's in the primary urban community in the Bruce County official plan and designated residential in the Kincardine official plan. It has been previously zoned R3Y with a holding on it. So the development concept is 36 townhomes. This is an elevation for what they are proposed to look like. There's going to be 1 duplex, 2 triplexes, and 7 fourplexes. They're going to be approximately 1,800 to 2,000 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 3 baths. Application for zoning bylaw amendment was approved by Kincardine in November of 2020. This bylaw did permit a couple site-specific reductions, was appealed and subsequently dismissed. The site plan that is up on the screen right now is the same site plan that you guys originally approved in 2020. So kind of what the important notes from here is that the vacant land condominium is the administrative process that splits up the lots. So that makes it available for individual sale to different property owners. So we're just really exercising what you have already approved and placing that into condominium so they can be individually sold. The property will also be site plan approved by municipality of Kincardine, and that process is undergoing right now. And additionally, we'll also have a condominium agreement as well. So brief primer on vacant land condominiums. They are very similar to a plan of subdivision. So they do not contain structures at time of registration and are registered across bare land. So they look a lot like a subdivision. Once the plan is registered and the homes are constructed, they can be sold and closed as homes are completed. It's very similar to a freehold subdivision. All unit owners own the common elements such as roads, infrastructure, stormwater management ponds, and parking areas. And the registration of a condo declaration and description creates a condo and automatically creates the corporation. So on a vacant land condo plan, the lots, kind of what you would be used to in a subdivision, are called units. And then the blue boxes will be the townhouses that are included on the lots. The common elements such as the road and the stormwater management pond will be shared within all the unit owners. So the next step on this is the conditions of draft approval of vacant land condominium will be finalized by the county, and the proponent will work on fulfilling them, including drafting a condo agreement and a condo declaration. The subject lands will be site plan approved. After this, a pre-servicing agreement will be requested. If granted, the servicing work such as roads, water, and sanitary sewer will be constructed. Once the conditions of draft approval are fulfilled, final registration of the vacant land condo will occur, and then finally, the construction of the homes. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions at the appropriate time. Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation. We will afford council the opportunity to ask some questions at the appropriate time. You're right. Are there any members of the public who would like to present any comments regarding this application? Yes, come on up to the microphone. State your name for the record, please.
Good afternoon, evening. Travis Crawford. We back on to the proposed development. I am a thorn in the side of the municipality from the beginning. We brought it to the council with petitions to not go through with this. He didn't listen. We brought it to the Ontario Board of Appeals, whatever you want to call it. They didn't listen. You didn't listen. We fought the next one and the next one. You listened. So my question is, yes, this was granted from the council, but the reality is the next one wasn't. And it wasn't thought of at the time how many developments are in Kincardine. I don't believe the research was done to say, do we need these places? It was stated by your council that this is a retirement community. That is not correct. I will say that to the ends of the earth. How are you going to have a multi-story retirement community? It is not happening. No one is buying a second story, third story so they can walk upstairs. It's not happening. Currently, on golf links, there is townhouses. Agreed. There's a single story townhouse development, which does have some retirees in it, but it also has non-retirees. There is multi-story townhouses that went in during this whole time when we were trying to argue this. They went in 2 stories. They are not retirees. They work at Bruce Power. They have kids. They have all this stuff. Across the street, we weren't allowed to talk about it at the Ontario Council, so the Ontario meeting. But there's a whole nother development going in there. It's clear cut. 2 are going in. Nothing has happened. We brought the community during COVID, 60, 70, 80 families signed a petition not to have this zoned R3. You didn't listen. This is an opportunity to fix the mistake. I'm not proposing that we don't have development in Kincardine. That's not it. I was a member of the Chamber of Commerce for 10 years. I was the president for 7. We need to develop Kincardine, I agree. But we need to start with, we don't have the infrastructure to do what you guys are trying to do right now. We can't play catch up. We need to play plan. We can't reactive. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to catch up to Port Elgin. But I don't want Port Elgin. We don't want Port Elgin. Yeah. My ask to you right now is, have you seriously looked at the water? Because I don't think you have. Have you seriously looked at the storm drain? Because the answer was, we're going to fix it for that development. Where is it going? Who is going to pay the price when all that water leaves that area? The people down. That's how it works, right? So everyone that's below that development is going to pay the price. It already happens. You didn't want to listen then. I'm asking you to listen now. Do your research before you agree. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Crawford. Are there any other presentations from the public? Anyone else who would like to speak to this application? Yes, please come to the microphone. State your name, please.
Hi, my name is Becky Crawford. I also live in the neighborhood where this development is being proposed. We back on to where the green space was clear cut. Just some things that I've noticed and our neighborhood has noticed since the clear cut. The trees in our properties have now started falling down because the trees were hanging on to the other trees in that lot that was clear cut. So I know there's nothing that can be done about it now, but I guess I'd just be speaking for future developments that maybe there needs to be like some sort of retention around the outside for a year and then take those down so that at least the properties surrounding the development aren't getting, you know, another devastating thing happening to them with all their own trees and their property coming down. And just speaking with other neighbors, we've had a lot of not injuries, sorry, damage with roofs, just because there's so much wind back there now. Like I know a couple of us have had to have emergency repairs come in, which we never experienced that before. All the trees were taken down. We were told in the beginning that they were only going to take down the necessary trees, but if you've looked at the pictures, there's not one tree left standing there, which was really disappointing because I trusted that the right thing was going to be done. And I guess for myself now, I just don't want this to happen to any other community because it's been devastating and I don't want anybody else to have to go through that. So maybe just the tree bylaws need to come in, just more planning surrounding the outside of the development and the homes and the people around it needs to be looked at rather than just the actual lot and the effects that it does on the community, if that makes sense. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Crawford. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak to this application? Anyone else from the public that would like to speak to this application? Oh, hello. Come on up. State your name, please, for the record.
Jarkko Holopainen, also known as the Lorax. I come here to speak for the trees. Some of you remember me from before. I remember the trees, but I know some of the people making developments don't. Please make better development choices. Stop cutting down trees in appropriate places and plant more and flow the water where it's supposed to, not where it's not supposed to. Pretty simple. Dr. Seuss figured it out a long time ago. A bunch of educated council members and developers, I think they should maybe read some children's books. Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak to this application? All right, seeing none, we have opportunity for council to pose questions or comments on this application. And I suppose correctly, we can address either our planner or our chief building official here, the applicant, or perhaps even a member of the public. Councillor Hinchberger, please.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I'll just start by saying that per the agenda, limited to questions and clarifications here. I'm not going to make any comments about developments, our socioeconomic systems or the past. One of the central things related to where we stand right now seems to be stormwater management. And as I read the reports, it seems to suggest, and I accept the argument, but I'm no expert in this, that right now we're essentially in a bit of a no man's land. With the trees that were there that are present, they might have had an effect on the water table. With them not present there now, they're not doing what they might have done. And the best thing actually to do at this point in time would be to expeditiously get on with that part of the project, especially the stormwater works, which should have some positive effect on surface water flows and groundwater flows in the area, and by extension have a positive impact on we'll call it the basements or the foundation drainage systems of the people in the neighborhood. So I guess the question is for the two planners, if I understand that correctly, or better yet, if you could explain it even better than I have.
Yes, thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. So that is correct. Based on the engineering design work that has been done, it is anticipated that there would be no negative impacts or no worsening of impacts to neighboring property owners as a result of the stormwater management design strategy that is involved. I don't know if perhaps Dana would like to elaborate on that, or Adam specifically.
Sure, I can call in the big guns too if need to, the engineers here. The property is ungraded at this time. So during development, it will be graded so that all the water flows into the pond and is appropriately managed from there. So at this time, the trees have been removed. It has not been graded. Post-development, it is graded in such a way that all the water is directed into the pond.
Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you. Through you, I just really want clarity that what we're being asked to approve right now basically is the vacant land condominium plan, and not like it's already been zoned, development's already happening. What we're being asked now is basically to allow it to be a condominium similar to a subdivision plan. That's what this question is asking for tonight.
Our CBO, would you, or Karina, can just confirm so that we're all on the same page here.
Yes, that is correct. The application before you tonight is for the vacant land condominium. So essentially allowing for the division of that land so that it can be sold.
So I'm sorry, the public has had their opportunity to converse about this. So we'll deal with the questions and comments from council at this point. Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, I have two questions. First of all, I'm always concerned about the infrastructure that we support in this room called Kincardine. There is a very limited amount of drainage going down Golf Link Road. It's an underground drainage that we designed quite a few years ago to help that whole neighborhood. And now you're thinking of adding more water into that drain. Plus you got another development on the other side of Golf Link Road. Plus you have another development going on the other side of 23 opposite the women's shelter. So, you know, this stormwater management, yes, they might have proven it to be on their property, but sooner or later it's going to come over to public property. Is that correct? And are we going to face a big price down the road? I mean, is that culvert or underground drainage big enough? And maybe the engineers, have they looked right at it all the way to the lake, and will it handle all three of those projects? Second question, I'll first let you answer the first.
So through you, Mayor Craig. So with this particular development, it will outlet to the Golf Link storm system. So that is a pipe network that conveys flows westerly to the lake. During the design of this project, we did provide the design engineers with the design sheets and all the framework that was undertaken for the upgrades of the Huron Ridge subdivision. So I can confirm that there was capacity in that pipe network, and that we did confirm through the design of this particular subdivision that it can accommodate the flows. One of the rationales or reasons for a stormwater management pond in part is retention as well. So when you get those peak events, that it's able to store some of that water and let it disperse over time. With respect to the two developments to the south, the one directly adjacent to Golf Links, it will be outletting into an opened channel system that's there now. It won't be outletting into that storm pipe. As you work your way over the crest of the hill of Golf Links, those two flows actually converge into one and then outlet through a pipe that will accommodate those flows to the lake. And then the development further south of that, that developer has come to an arrangement with the golf course to outlet through a network further south, so through midstream of the golf course, and won't actually come north to this location. So to answer the question as a whole, all three sites have been looked at, and we're comfortable with the drainage flows for all of those.
I guess
Councillor Stewart, please.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for the explanation. I just hope it works and we don't run into an April 4th storm that really killed all our drainage. So, you know, there is liability associated with this, and I know there's a huge problem from 23 down to the lake for drainage. So I'm hoping those engineers, or they at least have some sort of insurance policy to protect the neighborhood. Follow-up question is the traffic. We're going to face probably what, 36 condos in this place. So that's probably minimum, you know, because we don't have public transit. So that's probably 72 cars. Has there been a traffic study? I mean, because the county needs to get involved with this too, because this is road 23. So are you planning to put a light there, or what are we planning to do? Because we're going to have one heck of a lot of traffic along Golf Link Road, especially the other one that's just a little bit south will be exiting to Golf Link Road, which is another 36 or 40 condos. So all of a sudden you're adding one heck of a lot of cars going on to 23. And I don't know if you've ever been along 23 during peak hours between, you know, people going to Bruce and people coming. Are they going to be able to do left and right hand turns, or are we planning to put a sign light there? And who's responsible for the cost of the light if we plan to do that? Thank you.
Through you, Mayor Craig. So with this development solely, and I guess collectively with the others, part of the process for the development was to submit TIS, so a traffic impact study. Through that, there were no required upgrades with this particular site. As we concurrently advance development and you know, look at multitude of sites in a remote location, we do look at what each development proposal, how it would, I guess, aggregately impact the next. So I can concur that through each of those, there were no required upgrades from that traffic review, and that was information that was discussed at the Ontario Land Tribunal as well, and it was part of the you know, guiding principle, or one of the guiding principles in terms of the ULT coming to a decision on this file.
That's incorrect.
Thank you. Excuse me. I'd ask the members of the gallery to refrain from comment, please. Are there any other comments or questions, clarification for the planners? Councillor Stanoff-Gray, please.
I have a couple, just playing off a couple of the comments made by Councillor Stewart. When we talk about drainage, I'm curious because we've said that it's got the ability to accommodate, but do we have any recorded issues where that particular drainage pipe has been overwhelmed?
So through your Mayor Craig, there have been incidents where we have had to open the frame and grates. So if you're at the street level, we flipped open the lids so that way it could take more water in. So simply the pipe below was able to accommodate the flows. The inlet into that network wasn't able to based on the storm events. So we opened the lids to allow all the storm water that we were receiving from those rain events to disperse into a larger opening. Outside of that, I'm not aware of any incidents.
So would that flow be impacted in a similar way to increase that with like the buildings sitting on the lands? I'm just curious if we have to deal with having a bigger intake somehow that's still safe so that you're not having to flip storm covers to get into the inlet below. And then that's assuming it slows down the flow. So I'd like to know that that pipage system wouldn't be overflowed, right?
So through you, Mayor Craig. So that piping network that's there, again, I guess I'll reaffirm that it can accommodate the flows of this subdivision. So the subdivision, the way it's been designed, they've got a road network that is going to convey flows internally into a storm network that will collect into the stormwater management pond. And then it will disperse out from there through an outlet pipe that connects into Golf Links Road. It will only do so as the piping network can accommodate this. Possibly the engineer on behalf of COBIDE can confirm that all of that's accurate as well.
Please,
Through you,
Dana.
Mayor Craig.
Dina.
Yeah, just wanted to reaffirm what Adam said, that the pond retains the water. So when there's a storm event, the water goes into the pond and it was retained at that point and discharged out of the pond at the same flow as it would have been before. So what you do with stormwater management is match pre to post development. So that's what the pond does, is retain it to make sure that it meets the post flow.
Councillor Hinchberger, please.
Sorry, it's just a follow-up to that. What design event is the stormwater pond size to?
Through you, Mayor Craig, 100-year storm.
Any further comments or questions? Councillor Pranger, please, and then Councillor Steinhoff Gray.
Through the chair, can I please have a verification of Mr. Crawford's, one of his comments about the original proposal, which I believe, and maybe I'm wrong, this is what I need clarification of as well, upon which the ZBA was approved, was originally for a retirement society rather than this type of development?
Yeah, if the applicant can speak to that, if you would, please.
Through you, Mayor Craig, developments aren't usually approved on the basis of the type of house, like who they're marketing their housing to. They're approved on the housing building style. So townhouses were approved in that location.
Councillor Steinhoff Gray, please.
Okay, so the second question is just also building off of another question that Councillor Stewart had, because it got me thinking. If these are 3 bedrooms with 3 bathrooms, how many parking spaces are planned as part of this?
Through you, Mayor Craig, 2 per unit.
So the only concern that I would have is if they end up being rental units and there's 3 people in the bedrooms, then you have 3 vehicles, and I just, that road's kind of narrow, but maybe it's a moot point. I wanted to understand when they have concerns about traffic. And like, Adam, this question is more for you. Like, I believe we extended that bike trail out that way. Like, if we're going to have like kids and family members on bikes and there's going to be heavy traffic trying to get in and out during the peak traffic flows on 23, I feel like we should be reconsidering a light at that intersection.
Through you, Mayor Craig.
So I'll speak to that one. That is a valid concern, but we are not the engineers. And if the traffic information study verified, they look at these implications, and it is, though the question lurks in our mind, we're not the engineers that determine whether lights are needed or not needed. Would you like, is there any other further comment that you need to add to that, Director? So we need to be careful about what we become as part of the planning process. We're not the engineers. We're the ones that determine if this development is appropriate for our municipality. Councillor Steinhoff, great, please.
Sorry, just to follow up, I guess my question would be, at the time that the traffic study was done, did we have that bike trail in place? Like, I feel that was a new installment, and that's my lack of knowledge because I'm new to council, so I don't know the historical background of this or how long it's lagged. So I feel like there's been some changes in the community. I'd like to know the timeline of when the traffic study was done.
So through you, Mayor Craig, the traffic study would have been done prior to construction of the KIP Trail. The KIP Trail does officially start at the north limits of the Huron Ridge subdivision, but naturally to get there, you've got to convey across this intersection. Fair point taken. With that in mind though, however, the arrangement of a TIS looks at the traffic movements of the vehicular traffic for the intersection. So, if there's things such as traffic calming measures, traffic lights related to a bicycle trail that the municipality has within its infrastructure, those are things we would have to take into consideration under future budgets to look at addressing.
Councillor Stewart, please.
Just one final question, which was not properly answered. When was the study actually done? Because the last time we did a study was prior to the pandemic, which reduced the flows. So could you give us the exact date and maybe a copy of the study for the council to take a look at too? Thank you.
Sorry, through you, Mayor Craig, just clarification on which study you're referring to, Councillor.
Traffic study about this development. Or we didn't do one for the development itself. We just did one for Golf Link. I'm a little confused now.
No, so we've done a traffic study as part of the development process that was required for this development. I'd maybe look to the CAO if she has comment, but I mean, quite typically, I mean, any studies that are aiding staff as they work through development proposals are part of that whole package and process and received and reviewed at a staffing level only.
The director is quite right. Through you as the chair of the committee meeting, this would be the normal process. Is the information is gathered from the applicant. If there's things outstanding, we would request that be submitted before we complete our review and before making a recommendation about next steps.
Yes, Councillor Stewart.
So I need to follow up. I'm getting a little confused. I mean, it seems like there's a traffic study, but is this traffic study just basically inside the condominium? Or it doesn't go as far as Golf Link Road and to 23 and Golf Link Road? So I'm a little confused. Just tell me the date we did it and a copy of it, please.
Sure. The traffic study was done in advance of the zoning, so it would have been completed in 2020. It looks at the traffic turns into and out of the development. It's based on the number of units, which is not changing through the vacant land condo.
Councillor Stewart, please.
Sorry to bother you, but that was during the pandemic and we already had a similar situation. And you have to be careful because the pandemic, a lot of people weren't driving. So you probably see a lot more volume along 23 and Golf Link than you did before. So I would recommend, and I know that is, but I'd recommend a new traffic study. Thank you.
Through your Mayor Craig. I'd like to remind council that there was a development to the south of here that council, the past term, shared that concern and went through a process with a planning application that we ended up before the OLT, that we ended up coming to an agreement with that developer on because we did not have grounds to deny that planning application. One of the basis or points of interest was the traffic study that was done during the pandemic. I provided my professional opinion to council that doing an updated traffic study would not change the impact based on the design of the road, the capabilities of it, et cetera. That was further validated by the traffic consultant and received at the OLT. So I would suggest to council that that would be a waste of your time.
Thank you, Director. I'm going to limit the conversation now. We're not going to get into the traffic study nuances of this, even like you've heard the comments, and it'll be up to you. Are there any other questions about any other parts of this application other than what we've spoken of so far? Brand new topic? Okay, Councillor Steinhoff, great, please.
This question is for Adam. Adam, I'm just curious, if we approve this and then it turns out that we do have issues as a result of that, like the concerns that have been brought forward, like I'd like to understand what the methodology is for for resolution, because my biggest fear is we have to approve this because we're going to be appealed and lose anyways. But so if that's really the framework I'm working in, how do I deal with the consequences of that decision later when it's realized?
So through you, Mayor Craig, fair question. So with this particular location and where the traffic outlets to, we're looking at a county corridor. So what that looks like in terms of a review team and review process, the municipal engineer, the infrastructure team from our area, and then the county staff as well take a look at this, take a look at the road design, take a look at the professional studies provided to support the development and address any concerns through that. So I am quite confident that that this intersection can accommodate the traffic, but to your point, what if we got that wrong? What if there are issues? After a development is approved in any nature, if there are upgrades required at a later date that weren't agreed to within that development framework, that would be up to the municipality or road authorities to look at down the road.
So I appreciated that question, but I heard it in a bigger context than just traffic, like whether it was drainage or whether it was roads or whether it was trails or whatever it was. So ultimately, we rely on our staff's professional opinion, the scrutiny that the plan has gone through between themselves and the applicants and the comments of the public. And those are all taken into regard to minimize those opportunities that we might have to rectify. So, you know, we end up trusting the work of our staff and the consultants both. All right. So thank you for your questions. As with any other public meeting, there will not be a decision rendered within this public meeting. When we come out of the public meeting and go back to council, it will be dealt with as a motion, as a matters arising within, but not tonight.
Sorry, not tonight, Mayor.
Thank you. That's why you're the deputy clerk and I'm not. We rely on our staff. So we will be rendering a decision at a future meeting. That shouldn't like not next 2 weeks, month, whatever.
Karina.
When it comes back from Karina. Okay. All right. So we will not be rendering a decision this evening on this matter, but we will at a future meeting. Obviously, it will be circulated as part of the agenda, so the public will know what's going on. The developers and the applicants will know what's going on, the time frame like that, but it will not be tonight. All right, Deputy Clerk, you have a motion, please.
Moved by Doug Kennedy, seconded by Beth Blackwell, that this planning public meeting adjourn at 5:46 p.m.
So you've heard the motion, all in favor? And that's carried. All right, so we come back to number 6 on our council meeting. Consideration of motion, support of family health team. Deputy Clerk, please.
Moved by Beth Blackwell, seconded by Bill Stewart, that the municipality of Kincardine support the Kincardine Family Health Team's expression of interest for expanding and enhancing interprofessional primary care teams. And further, that council authorizes the mayor to send a letter of support to Ontario Health for his expression of interest.
So you've heard the motion. Is there any discussion? All in favor? And that's carried. 6.2, open public walkway between 207, 209 Birchwood Trail. Deputy Clerk, please.
Let's take a drink because this is a long one. Thank you, Councillor Hinchberger.
You're welcome again.
So I have moved by Mike Hinchberger and seconded by Amanda Steinhoff Gray. Whereas two projects being Y007 Birchwood Ave storm easements and trail connection and N008 Birchwood public walkway improvements related to opening and establishing public walkways between Birchwood Road and the trail and the shoreline road allowance, the Birchwood Trail, were presented to council for consideration in the 2023 capital projects. And whereas resolution 01-25-23-03 was carried by council on January 25th, 2023, stating that council postpone any decision related to project Y007 until the next budget meeting and direct staff to revise the estimate of the project to address only the safety concerns related to the stormwater management function of the property under consideration. And whereas revised project Y007 was ultimately approved as part of the 2023 capital budget. Whereas resolution 03-06-23 COW-07 was carried by council on March 6, 2023, that council directs staff to defer N008 Birchwood Public Walkway improvement in the amount of $45,000 from the 2023 capital budget with a staff report until a staff report is received. Whereas the mentioned staff report was received by virtue of materials provided and walked down completed by the Birchwood Trails area by members of council during a special meeting of council, the facilities tour, on May 29th, 2023. And that council directs staff to complete a revised project N008 in 2023 to open the public walkway between 207 and 209 Birchwood to the Birchwood Trail. And that council directs staff to revise the description of project N008 attachment A to move the installation of the stairs of the upper level bluff to the mid-level bluff connecting to the Birchwood Trail with the intent to route the walkway from the upper level bluff to the mid-level bluff through the shore road allowance west of 207 Birchwood Ave, or a route construction that is most practicable and accessible with surfacing, signage, etc., consistent with the existing municipal practices. And further, that the 2023 budget be amended to include funds in the amount of $45,000 for the capital project N008 to be funded through the Life Cycle Reserve Fund.
A lot shorter than.
So you've heard the resolution, the motion, and it's time for discussion, and I would open the floor to Councillor Hinchberger, please.
Thank you through your mayor. Well done, Deputy Clerk. I might need the glass of water. I have a few comments. One, I'd like to thank CAO Jolene for helping me wordsmith my initial draft to encompass some things that I maybe hadn't taken into consideration. I have one edit to the resolution as written. It's that the last line read that the 2023 budget be amended to include funds in the amount of $20,000 for capital project November 008 to be funded through the Life Cycle Reserve Fund. The reasons for this is there are some downward pressures on the estimate based on a revision of scope related to fencing and or stairs, but it's also in recognition that there might be some upward pressures based on consultation with the Accessibility Advisory Committee that should be taken into account. So I consider this a decent compromise. Additionally, I'd say the main reason for many of my recitals in there was just to set a little background that when the 2023 budget came about, we were actually presented with two projects in that area that actually had components related to opening a walkway. And we chose one of them not to do it related to costs and focus only on the stormwater issues and safety concerns. So we're left with one where it was proposed two. So I think that provides a bit of impetus to go with the remaining one. I'd just like to point out that we received a petition at council previously, and this is no way meant to diminish any of the other concerns raised in the petition, but I'd like to really focus tonight on the walkway and not any other concerns that have been raised. Okay, I'd like to acknowledge that over the last couple of years, I wasn't president in council, but there's been a significant amount of work done down in the Birchwood Trail area. And much of it, from my perspective, was done not directly in the public interest, but a lot to accommodate actually actions of property owners in the area. And I feel at this time, this is a specific project which is related to the public as a whole. The official plan contains policies related to having policies related to improving recreational opportunities. The area was designed with this walkway in mind. It may not have been open for reasons that many of us don't know. There is an existing walkway just on the other side of the street that allows people from Eastwood to come down there as well. So it kind of lines up for that. Okay, the last two last ones, I'm going to defer anything else I might have to say to hear some comments or questions from my peers. And the last is I will be asking for a recorded vote on this issue.
Can I just get Councillor Steinhoff's great approval to change the 45,000 to 20,000? Yep.
So just broadly speaking, can you briefly express the outcome? Like, this is well written, well thought out, but at the end of the day, what is the outcome? Like, if somebody's at home listening to this,
You're asking the question, what is this going to look like?
what's it going to look like when it's done?
What I would envision,
and I don't mean what's on the what we use for ground cover. That's not the point. Like, what is the pedestrian intent of this?
Thank you through your mayor. I think I'm going to have to answer the question with two ways. One, the intent is these walkways provide access to a trail. So it's going to facilitate additional access to the trail for people in the area. We also need to consider that this has grown over the decades with the building and we'll call it the filling out of that subdivision that connected Kinhuron and Lake Huron Highlands as well. Just visually, I can do it very quick. Many people might be familiar with Lover's Lane in Kincardine, which is a waterfront trail, and Saugeen Street. There's a walkway or two that connects the two, and that's what I'm envisioning. You know, public walkway sign like there exists at some of the access points on Birchwood at each end, and a means that allows the majority of members of the public to access the trail work, which I'll stop there.
Yeah, to clearly identify the public pathway.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions or discussion regarding this motion? Deputy Mayor, please.
I think the proposal not only helps to clearly identify the pathway, I think it's perhaps more significant on another level of ensuring and facilitating public users of the pathway and the walkway. So I certainly can get behind in supporting this motion.
Councillor Stewart.
For a guy who usually says a lot, I support this 100%. Thank you.
Councillor Kennedy.
Through the chair, yes, I'm in support of having that public walkway opened up, and as long as it's safe, that's all I'm worried about. And I'm not a problem with the adjustment he made, but that's the only thing that I want to be sure that it's safe for all people, even like accessible and different things like that. But thank you.
Councillor Blackwell.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I do really want to just reiterate that municipal land is by nature public, but that doesn't necessarily automatically grant public access. I support Councillor Hinchberger's motion specifically in that it is creating a very clear trail from point A to point B, connecting two trails, and I will support it. I know you didn't want to talk about other elements of the petition, but it is important to me that this is the trail that we as a municipality are agreeing potentially our council will pass, and that it is the only trail that I will agree to in that area, in terms of if other trails are to be created, they're to be created at the direction of council, and I'll leave it at that.
Councillor Prenger, please.
Thank you through you, Chair. I too fully support this motion. Councilor Hinchberger stole my thunder in proposing a friendly amendment to revise the amount. But he explained why better than I could, so I'm glad he did it. And so I guess I just like to say, like, the current state of the trail, the main portion of the trail is actually quite safe. I've walked down it personally, carrying the baby, no issues. And so, like Councillor Kennedy said, as long as it's safe, the rest of it. But I do think that the proposal that Councillor Hinchberger has put forth is actually safe. I've walked that portion as well. So I have absolutely no issues with this. I actually think it's better financially for the municipality than putting in engineered stairs. I'd like to see this done as affordably as possible. And yep, I'll stop there too, actually. Thank you.
Councillor Kavanaugh, please.
Thank you very much. And through the chair, I just have one clarification question for staff. And that's that this proposed motion doesn't contravene anything that's been recorded or promised or determined previously.
Yeah, that's a great question. And through you, Mayor, yes, based on the review that I've seen, this does not contradict any. There have been conversations about what could be, but certainly no commitments made. So this doesn't contravene anything. Not from.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Hinchberger. All right, the request was made for a recorded vote, so I would ask the deputy clerk to proceed with that, please.
Okay, so we are calling for a recorded vote. Beth Blackwell,
So just to confirm, the appropriate answer, if you're in support, is yes. And right, that's the direction. Okay.
yes or no?
Sure.
Councilor Blackwell? No.
Yes. Okay, sorry, in case you didn't hear, yes.
Thank you. Rory Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Andrea Clark,
Yes.
Mike Hinchberger,
Yes.
Doug Kennedy,
Yes.
Jennifer Prenger,
Yes.
Amanda Steinhoff Gray,
Yes.
Bill Stewart,
Yes.
and Kenneth Craig.
Yes.
That is carried.
Well done, Mike.
All right, moving on to consideration of bylaws, 7.1, the municipal drain 21 bylaw. Deputy clerk, please.
So I moved by Jennifer Prenger, seconded by Mike Hinchberger, that the municipal drain number 21 bylaw be deemed to be read a third time and finally passed and numbered as bylaw 2023-050.
Heard the motion, any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Appointment bylaw, enforcement, deputy clerk, please.
Moved by Rory Kavanaugh, seconded by Amanda Steinhoff Gray, that the appointment bylaw enforcement for James Special Services, Inc., 2023 Amendment Number 1 be deemed to be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and numbered as bylaw number 2023-091.
Heard the motion. Is there any discussion? All in favor? And that's carried. Move into committee of the whole. Deputy clerk, please.
Moved by Doug Kennedy, seconded by Beth Blackwell, that council move into committee of the whole and upon completion, return to council.
All in favor? Yes. And that's carried. All right, I'd like to call to order the committee of the whole meeting for the council of the corporation of the municipality of Kincardine at 6 o'clock on June 12th. And ask if there are any amendments, additions, or deletions to the agenda. Once again, if there's a pecuniary interest, either declare it and the general nature thereof now or as it arises. And we have the minutes of the committee of the whole meetings. Deputy clerk, please.
Moved by Bill Stewart, seconded by Jennifer Prenger, that the minutes of the committee of the whole meeting held on June 5th, 2023 be adopted as printed.
All in favor? That's carried. Were there any items for discussion from the council meeting? None, no delegations. Infrastructure and development. Deputy Clerk, please, for the motion.
Moved by Mike Hinchberger, seconded by Roy Kavanaugh, that the committee of the whole recommend that council repeal bylaw 2022-039, and that council direct staff to proceed with the closing of part 1 and assumptions of parts 4 and 7 as detailed within the report. And further, that council authorize the mayor and CAO to sign all required documentation.
Director, would you like to speak to this? Or shall we just see if there's any questions first? Okay. You've heard the motion. Is there any discussion? All in favor? And that's carried. Good choice. Well done. Durham Street Road Widening Acquisition. Deputy Clerk, please.
Moved by Amanda Steinhoff Gray, seconded by Doug Kennedy, that the committee of the whole recommend to council that the property identified as Park Lot 2, south side of Durham Street, Plan Kincardine, being Part 3, 3R 7894, Municipality of Kincardine, County of Bruce, being part of PIN 33309-0385, be acquired by the Municipality of Kincardine for road widening purposes. And further, that council authorize the mayor and chief administrative officer to execute all required documentation on behalf of the municipality.
So you've heard the motion. Is there any questions? All in favor? And that's carried. Drinking water quality management system plan revision. Deputy Clerk, please.
Moved by Beth Blackwell, seconded by Bill Stewart, that the committee of the whole recommend that council endorse both the municipality of Kincardine drinking water quality management system operational plans, revision number 10 or revision 10 May 2023, and the quality management system policy revision 3 May 4th, 2022.
So you've heard the motion. Is there any discussion? Councillor Stewart, please.
Hi, I just wanted to, and I must admit, I didn't read the whole thing, but I would like to ask, you're talking about alternatives. So it makes a great idea because we're all on the hook for water. What's your alternative for Armo? I mean, I know one of the problems is you and I talked about this, we have a lot of small systems and a lot of small systems are run by wells and everything. So as an alternative to one well, as we drill another well, just help me out this. And I know Scott Point's drilling another well, so in Underwood. So those are the smaller ones. The bigger ones are easy to figure out, but help me out with the small locations and what's the alternative for us?
Through you, Mayor Craig. The small drinking water systems are very difficult systems to determine future possibilities. Armo is the smallest site we have. With that being said, the municipality could look into avenues of fragmenting a system, which is breaking it out into what I would call smaller subsystems to a point where maybe it wouldn't necessarily fall under an Ontario regulation drinking water system. But that would have to be supported by the ratepayers there for sure, and then secondly by the ministry. But other than that, the alternatives you're looking at are different water sources for sure.
Thank you. All right, so we've heard the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? And that's carried. Durham Street pump selection. Deputy Clerk, please.
Moved by Jennifer Pringer, seconded by Mike Hinchberger, that the committee of the whole recommend that council award the Durham Street pump selection to Xylem Canada LP in the amount of $151,550.44. So that's 151,550.44, including the non-recoverable portion of HST.
So you've heard the motion. Is there any discussion? All in favor? And that's carried. McDonald Municipal Drain Contract. Deputy Clerk, please.
The committee of the whole recommend that council award the contract for the McDonald Municipal Drain Project to Zoland Construction Corp. For the bid price of $234,338.80. That's 234,338.80, not including HST.
So you've heard the motion. Is there any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. concurrence request process for wireless telecommunication towers policy. Deputy Clerk, please.
Moved by Amanda Steinhoff Gray, seconded by Doug Kennedy, that the committee of the whole recommend that council pass a bylaw to adopt the concurrence request policy for wireless telecommunication towers as attached to the report.
Heard the motion. Is there any discussion? All in favor of the motion? And that's carried. Site plan control policy amendment to PD 1.1. Deputy Clerk, please.
I have moved by, site plan control.
Yes.
Moved by Beth Blackwell, seconded by Bill Stewart, that the committee of the whole recommend that council pass the site plan control policy as presented.
Heard the motion. Is there any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Holding removal bylaw. Deputy Clerk, please.
Moved by Jennifer Prenger, seconded by Mike Hinchberger, that the committee of the whole recommend that council of the municipality of Kincardine pass a bylaw for the removal of the holding provision for part of park lots 5 and 6, Plan 10, lots 1 and 2, Kincardine.
Heard the motion. Is there any discussion? Ms. Councillor Prenger, please.
Thank you through you, Chair. Is it possible for this to be moved by someone else other than myself?
Yes, it is.
I noticed I've been ignoring Deputy Mayor. I'll put Andrea Clark.
So the motion remains the council recommend, or the committee whole recommend the removal of the holding provision from those development properties. You've heard the motion. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Anyone opposed? That's carried. Volunteer management policy. Deputy Clerk, please.
So I have moved by Andrea Clark, seconded by Roy Kavanagh, that the committee of the whole recommend that council approve option 1 of the presented volunteer management policies. And further, that council direct staff to investigate the creation of the volunteer coordinator position and present the recommendation to council during the 2024 budget deliberations.
Heard the motion. Is there any discussion? Councillor Steinhoff, Councillor Kavanagh, please. Councillor Kavanagh, please. Councillor Steinhoff Gray, please.
Through you, Chair, I was wondering if someone could explain to me why we would not provide WSIB. The only reason I wondered about it is because if someone gets hurt and cannot work as a result of their volunteer efforts, I don't know what happens in that capacity. So I'd like to understand why we refrain from that. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yep, through you, Chair. They wouldn't be eligible as per WSIB's requirements. So it's not so much that we're withholding it, is that they wouldn't be eligible because they're not a worker.
Like not an employed worker. Yeah, not an employee as such. Councillor Stewart, you had a question, please.
Yeah, certainly. When we were talking about this and adding a personnel, are we adding somebody? And I don't want to include this. It would have to be a separate issue approved. We also talked about adding a personnel to this, but also having other responsibilities and some HR and everything else. So I'm a little confused. All of a sudden that came at the last minute, sort of saying that we need a volunteer clerk or whatever it is. Is that a full-time position? Is that what we're approving?
Through you, Mayor. So sorry for the confusion, Councillor Stewart. But there are 2 options for policies there. One doesn't include any staff resources, but because essentially what that policy outlines is we appreciate volunteers and their work that they're doing, but we're not coordinating it. So therefore requires no oversight, but that also means they don't have any coverage through insurance. The option that we're proposing does include some coordination, and what is being recommended is that we pilot this with existing staff. So the EA who works with me, Olivia, would be doing the work this year to help us gather some information about how much time it's taking so that we have a better understanding of whether or not we need to pitch this as a new position within a 2024 budget. So it's a pilot project.
Councillor Hinchberger, please.
Yeah, thank you through your mayor. I think this is a really like prudent way to go about this, to essentially get our toe in the water, gather some data, and then we can make an informed decision. Should we choose? Thanks.
Councillor Kavanaugh, please.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate the opportunity to sort of collect my thoughts and get an idea. And through the chair, I just wanted to say that I really like the staff suggested option here, because I know our municipality is powered by volunteers. Everyone contributes something to the best of their ability and brings something different to the table. And doing it this way would ensure that everyone is doing it in a safe and as controlled a way as possible to minimize risks, while also still getting all those great benefits.
Like many other processes that have happened in the municipal world over a number of years, volunteers used to just show up with a shovel and a bucket and go to work. And with changing times and insurance needs and, you know, the direction the municipality and other municipalities are heading, I agree with your comments that, you know, some municipal oversight and testing the waters is a great way to proceed in this. And, you know, the municipality will be better because of it. So Councillor Blackwell, please.
Thank you. Through you, volunteers have been a bit of my bread and butter for many years. So I'm very excited to see this coming forward. One of the, I did have a meeting with Jillian to discuss a couple of small details within the policy. And one of the ones that I really wanted to speak to was ensuring that we change the wording in the policy from job description to volunteer role description. I wouldn't want anyone to get the impression that we are attempting to replace or remove employees. This is really how I see volunteers, is to supplement and expand what we're capable of doing, rather than using volunteers to attempt to reach our minimum standards. So there's that. I think there's a couple other things that we just talked around wording. So I think, anyways, there may just be a couple small wording changes around things like risk and the word disability instead of special needs. So if you see anything that changes between now and when the final policy comes forward, it's probably because it was, it's because I suggested it.
No problem.
Yep. So I'm just going to ask our CAO about timelines for the presentation of this policy.
So for this one, the discussion that the counselor and I had, I think that if council is willing to give us a little bit of discretion to make some slight modifications to wording, it could be approved tonight, because we're hopeful that we then can post this and advertise the opportunity for volunteers to get engaged. There are some folks that have been waiting for this. So while I might say in normal circumstances at a future meeting, we could bring it back with all the cleanups, but I think these are small enough that we could do it tonight if council chooses.
All right. So we've heard the motion. All in favor of accepting option one? Any opposed? That's carried. Municipal Tree Canopy and Natural Vegetation Ad Hoc Committee. Deputy Clerk, please.
So I have moved by Doug Kennedy, seconded by Beth Blackwell, that the Committee of the Whole recommend that council approve the terms of reference for the Municipal Tree Canopy and Natural Vegetation Ad Hoc Committee as presented, and further that council appoint the following council members to the ad hoc committee.
So you've heard the motion. First off, perhaps we should open the floor for any volunteers for this Municipal Tree Canopy and Natural Vegetation Committee members. Is there anyone that would like to offer their services to sit on this committee? Sorry, what's your question? Well, we'll offer it for volunteers, and then we'll go to volunteers. Councillor Stewart, would you like to offer to be on this committee? You did have your hand
Yes, I
up.
would. Yes,
That
I
was
would.
in response to the question I asked.
Yeah,
So
I would like to volunteer for this committee. Thank you.
any other volunteers for this committee? Councillor Blackwell, Councillor Kavanaugh, Inchberger, do we have to, Steinoff, Gray, Pranger? Are we going to go to an election now? Okay, just to clarify, is it inappropriate to expand the membership of this ad hoc committee? It weighs it down and it's harder to get meetings, you know, because there's 6 people. But if you've got 6 people, you need 4 to show up. You need, and you know, it might be easier to get that rather than 2 or 3. So I'm just seeking direction from staff and can. Well, if there were 6 here, you need 4 for a quorum.
Yeah, I think for the proposal, we're hoping that this is a committee that's a little bit nimble and that they can get together quickly and make some decisions. This is not a new topic area for this community. There was a recommendation from the previous council. That's probably the starting point of what this committee would be looking at with respect to the tree bylaw, but also looking at the tree canopy and natural vegetation policy. So for me, it's about the nimbleness of being able to pull people together. So 3 is the number recommended because of that very, yes.
All right, we're going to open the floor for volunteers for the tree canopy. Councillor Stewart.
Looking around the table and knowing how important these fellow counselors, I'm going to unvolunteer. So there's going to be one less. You guys can carry the ball. And to be honest with you, I feel 100% secure it's going to be successful.
So at this point, we have Councillor Steinoff, Gray, Kavanaugh, Blackwell, Prenger, and Hinchberger. Councillor Steinoff, Gray, please.
I am prepared to fully endorse the remaining counselors on the table. And I know that some of them will give it more energy than I could dedicate to it. So respectfully, I'm declining too.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'd also like to withdraw my name at this time.
Okay, stop the tsunami, no more.
Yeah, you guys got to stay now.
So the remaining councillors are Councillors Blackwell, Prenger, and Hinchberger. You 3 are willing to remain on the ad hoc committee? Thank you. So the motion once again that we recommend council approve the terms of reference for the municipal tree canopy and natural vegetation ad hoc committee, and the council appoint councillors Blackwell, Prenger, and Hinchberger to that ad hoc committee. All in favor of that motion? And that's carried. 7.3 information reports. These, though they are not consent agenda items, they are for information, and no recommendations are required for approval. They're just here, but always opportunity for questions. Councillor Stewart, please.
Thank you. I just wanted to recognize 7.3B. Thank you very much, Dwayne McNabb, for sending a site plan, and you do a great job. Keep us informed about it. I know that we don't run it anymore, but you've done a great job, and it's important for us to know what's happening. Thank you.
Deputy Clerk. Oh, I'm sorry. Councillors Steinoff Gray.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. I just had a quick question about from the Environmental Services Compliance Report. I understand obviously that there was no safety consideration for the failed programmable logic controller. But I am curious because I know that certain times of period we don't staff certain things. Do we have redundancy built into our alarms for systems where it does matter? Like if a PLC failed, for example? Thanks. Sorry.
Through you, Mayor Craig. So typically most of the systems run on the SCADA system for alarm, and then there's a additional system that runs in the background, which I believe is called Win 911, something like that. It has they call it the heartbeat. So if something starts malfunctioning or it doesn't pick up the signals from the PLC cabinets, it actually triggers out a secondary alarm to notify the on-call operator that there's something wrong.
Your question leads to a great policy question, Steinoff. Councillor Steinoff Gray.
Sure. I had one follow-up question. So,
About policy or something, I bet, isn't it?
sure,
Okay,
yes.
right on.
I was also, I guess, following up on that. So for the on-call, does it go directly to the on-call or does it go through a routing system like the manager?
So through you, Mayor Craig, the system has changed a little bit in the last couple months, but for the most part, the system, all the water and wastewater sites go directly through the phone that the on-call operator either carries or has forwarded to him. But there was an additional service, a call-in service that dealt more with complaints, but that's recently changed and actually comes through the office here now where people can leave a number and the on-call operator will get back to them.
So we're going to adjourn at this point, and then we're going to adjourn for a 5-minute break, which might afford opportunity for questions to be asked if there's any more policy questions that need to be asked. Okay. Deputy Clerk, please.
Moved by Bill Stewart, seconded by Jennifer Prenger, that this committee of the whole meeting adjourn at 6:23 PM.
All in favor? Yes. You have 6 minutes. Yeah. All you have to do is anything, I say. Do you have any telephone policies that? All right, welcome back to the matters arising from the committee of the whole as we reconvene. We start with 9.1 and we are passing motions that support our recommendations coming out of committee of the whole. Deputy Clerk, please, 9.1.
Okay, so I have Bill Stewart, or moved by Bill Stewart, seconded by Beth Blackwell, that the part of Durham Street closure bylaw be deemed to be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and numbered as bylaw number 2023-092.
So you've heard the motion, all in favor?
Yes.
And that's carried. Durham Street established as public highways bylaw.
Moved by Mike Hingeberger, seconded by Andrea Clark, that the Durham Street established as a public highway bylaw be deemed to be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and numbered as bylaw number 2023-093.
You've heard the motion, all in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Drinking water quality management system plan revision 10. Deputy Clerk, please.
Moved by Andrea Clark, seconded by Rory Kavanaugh, that council endorse both the Municipality of Kincardine Drinking Water Quality Management System Operational Plans Revision May 10, 2023, and the Quality Management System Policy Revision 3 dated May 4th, 2022.
Heard the motion, all in favor? And that's carried. Award tender for Durham Street pump bylaw, please.
Moved by Amanda Steinhoff Gray, seconded by Doug Kennedy, that the award tender of Durham Street pump number 029465 bylaw be deemed to be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and numbered as bylaw number 2023-094.
Heard the motion, all in favor? That's carried. McDonald Drain Tender Bylaw, Deputy Clerk, please.
Moved by Beth Blackwell, seconded by Bill Stewart, that the award McDonald Municipal Drain Tender 029415 bylaw be deemed to be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and numbered as bylaw number 2023-095.
You've heard the motion, all in favor? And that's carried. Concurrence request process bylaw, Deputy Clerk, please.
Moved by Jennifer Pranger, seconded by Mike Hingeberger, that the concurrence request process for wireless telecommunication towers policy bylaw be deemed to be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and numbered as bylaw 2023-096.
So you've heard the motion, all in favor? And that's carried. Site plan control policy bylaw.
Moved by Rory Kavanaugh, seconded by Amanda Steinhoff Gray, that the site plan control policy bylaw be deemed to be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and numbered as bylaw 2023-097.
So you've heard the motion, all in favor? Anyone opposed? It's carried. Amend comprehensive zoning bylaw holding removal bylaw. Deputy Clerk, please.
Moved by Doug Kennedy, seconded by Beth Blackwell, that the amendment to the comprehensive zoning bylaw number 2023-25 holding removal for Battler bylaw be deemed to be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and numbered as 2023-098.
Heard the motion, all in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Municipal Tree Canopy and Natural Vegetation Committee bylaw.
I have moved by Bill Stewart, seconded by Jennifer Pranger, that the Municipal Tree Canopy and Natural Vegetation Ad Hoc Committee Terms of Reference bylaw be deemed to be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and numbered as bylaw 2023-099.
So you've heard the motion, all in favor? And that's carried. Committee appointment 2023 amendment bylaw. Deputy Clerk, please.
Moved by Mike Hingeberger, seconded by Andrea Clark, that the committee appointment 2023 amendment number 3 bylaw be deemed to be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and numbered as bylaw number 2023-100.
Heard the motion, all in favor? Anyone opposed? That's carried. The volunteer management policy bylaw.
So I've added this to the agenda. It's moved by Andrea Clark, seconded by Jennifer Prenger, that the volunteer management policy bylaw be deemed to be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and numbered as bylaw number 101, 2023-101.
So you've heard the motion. This is the one where we are accepting option 1 as regarding the volunteer process, okay? Pardon me?
We also, sorry about that, through you, we also gave the CO some wiggling room.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
I'm not sure we have to put that in the motion.
No.
Thank you.
All in favor? And that's carried. Very good. Members of council, general announcements. Deputy Mayor Clark, please.
Just a reminder, there's the Pride Parade and Celebration, June 24th.
Councillor Kavanaugh.
June 17th is Rock with Your Docs. Doors open at the Davidson Center at 4 p.m. and the first band takes the stage at 6. So come on out for a great night.
Councillor Steinoff Gray.
I have no announcements today.
Councillor Kennedy.
Just another thing for Saturday night, you know, we're kind of in a unique municipality where we have doctors and nurses want to get up on that stage. And you know what I mean? And that's not normal, you know, sorry, I'm sorry, it's not normal. But you know, it's not, doesn't happen in all the municipalities around us. And you know, and to me, it kind of brings the community together. That's how I look at Saturday night, you know, for a really good cause. And Dr. Murray, just for example, last year, the weather, you know, we kind of, you know, I mean, anyway, some mistakes were made. It's outside, it was crappy weather, you know, so we fixed that. So Dr. Murray, being the amazing human being that he is, built a stage that's going to fit under the tent. So good weather, bad weather, if you can show up for 1 hour that day between 6 and 7, it'll be worth your while, bringing the community together to raise money for our hospital. Thank you.
Councillor Blackwell.
Thank you. Through you, I have a couple tickets left if anyone is looking for some. They're yeah, I'm excited. I don't know what Dr. Murray can't do at this point. I wanted to recognize our staff who put together the Indigenous celebration on Saturday. I went with my son up to Victoria Park. We got to see some fancy dancing, do some crafts, checked out the Legacy of Hope exhibits. It was an absolutely wonderful day. And so I just wanted to recognize them for that. And also a reminder, if you have a chance to get uptown and see the windows, there was damage while I was out of town. I was devastated to hear about it, but it has since been lemons turned into lemonade with some beautiful artwork. So if you can support our local businesses and check that out, it's well worth your time as well.
Councillor Stewart.
Thank you. Through you, the Agricultural Society of Tiverton is putting on the first Canada Day celebration on July the 1st. So glad you'll be there too. And the Lions Club of Tiverton will be having a breakfast between 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock. So this is the first attempt that we're going to have a Canada Day celebration outside of the town of Kincardine. What? Breakfast is at the Annex. It's always at the Whitney Crawford Center. So come, bring your money, and the donations or any proceeds will go to the splash pad. Thank you.
Councillor Prenger.
Thank you. I had just wanted to take this opportunity to say that I have a couple of tickets for Saturday left too, if anyone needs them. So, and of course, Beth beat me to it, but that's okay. I think everybody knows where to find us, so feel free to contact me.
Councillor Hinchberger.
Thank you for 4 tickets. Thank you, through you, Mayor. Anything I could add has already been covered by my colleagues. Thanks.
CAO.
I do have one announcement with respect to the date for the public session about Mystic Cove. So we'll be working on putting out some communication. But we've picked the Friday of the long weekend. So Friday afternoon in Underwood. So that way, those who are coming into town who don't normally, who may not be here all the time, have the opportunity to pop in if they choose. So Underwood, June the 30th. 12:30 to 3:30. Okay. Oh, yes. Yeah. I'm just letting you know, you can expect that.
Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
Very good. This is a municipality full of activities. You don't have to go looking far to find something to do. Deputy Clerk, please.
Moved by Roy Kavanagh, seconded by Amanda Steinhoff Gray, that the bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the Municipality of Kincardine of June 2023 be deemed to be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and numbered as bylaw 2023-102.
All in favor? And that's carried. And the ever popular motion to adjourn.
Moved by Doug Kennedy, seconded by Beth Blackwell, that council adjourn at 6:40 PM.
All in favor?